Yes, hi, I'm Richard Decker. I am the president of AIG's Global Marine Operations, which is part of the specialty business of AIG Property and Casualty. I've been with AIG almost 7 years now, and almost hate to say it, but I've been in the insurance business for about 43 years.
Hi, I'm Mike Coyle. I am the division executive for AIG Marine in North America. I've been also 7 years with AIG, started with Rich, and I haven't been in the industry as long as Rich. I've only been in for 40 years.
Hi, I'm Brian Wood. I'm the Chief Underwriting Officer for Global Marine. I've been in the marine business for over 40 years, currently with AIG for about 7 years.
Hello, my name is Scott Brown. I'm the Global Head of Marine Loss Control Engineering at AIG. I've been in the marine industry for about 23 years, several of those sailing in the merchant marine, and with the last 7 years with AIG.
I think Sandy is set apart as a hurricane in that, first of all, its location, where it came ashore in the Northeast. We're more familiar with hurricanes down in the Florida area or in the Gulf area. The Northeast is highly densely populated, a lot of infrastructure, a lot of cargo moving through our local ports, and I think that significantly set it apart from what we've experienced in other areas in the United States.
I think what set Sandy apart, for one, I think you can truly call it a perfect storm. After combining with the strong low pressure system that was approaching from the west, it formed into one of the largest storms on record in the Atlantic. It had the lowest barometric pressure reading for any storm ever recorded in the Atlantic. It had one of the largest storm surges, and this was mainly due to the unusual angle of approach into New York, as well as just the sheer size of the storm, created this record storm surge for the area. And to top it all off, it hit at high tide. And not only was it high tide, but it was a full moon high tide, which meant the tides were 20% higher than normal. So all of this just amplified that storm surge and made it really unprecedented for the area.
Well, Sandy, the hurricane, has probably set a record for the largest, if not one of the largest, or if not the largest marine loss on record. As hurricanes go, people think of wind. It was not that strong a wind event, but it did have many distinguishing characteristics that caused the devastation that we saw. First, its size. It was perhaps 1,000 miles across. It was moving very slowly. During the storm, the coast of New Jersey, New York, Connecticut experienced 3 high tides. There was also a full moon. The direction of the storm, which was very unusual. Normally, hurricanes will come up the East Coast and head out to the open Atlantic. This storm got to the Delmarva Peninsula and began turning left. It actually hit land somewhere around Atlantic City. And the combination of all these events created a storm surge that was unprecedented in history.
The damage to recreational watercraft was tremendous in Sandy. I think a lot more than anybody would have ever predicted. There were over 65,000 yachts predictably damaged. 70% of them were total losses. I don't think anybody in their wildest dreams would have thought something like that in the Northeast.
Yeah, the significance of the market, not only affecting individuals, but marinas, yacht clubs, anyone really on the water that was anywhere near the storm surge was impacted. Probably one of the mitigating factors, I mean, you think about $650 million, it's an extremely large figure. It was intense, but it could have been a lot worse. I think that if it hadn't have been after many boats were put up for winter storage, we could have seen that figure much larger.
The damage to commercial ports in the Northeast was very significant. Port of Newark is one of the most busy ports in the United States, certainly on the East Coast. a lot of large container facilities there, a lot of handling equipment required for those containers. So the port's infrastructures were damaged, as well as much of the cargo that was in the port at the time.
Yeah, I think you can relate it all to the storm surge. The ports that were outside of the immediate area, they really had minimal damage, and really because they were only exposed to the wind. But when you get to the Port of New York, New Jersey, they had the unprecedented storm surge, which meant there were many containers that were floating in the channels alongside the berths, so that limited access to the terminals. Anything that was grounded, whether it was containerized cargo, break bulk such as wind turbine components or heavy construction equipment, they were damaged. Even bulk cargo like coal that was located on the port, some of that got washed away. So it had a significant widespread impact. And I would say probably the most significant was to the cars that were stored at the port. I think there were over 16,000 cars that were reported lost.
First, I would say it's a little bit too early to tell what kind of an effect Sandy will have on pricing in the markets. It's a lot easier to talk about its effects in the reinsurance markets. A large share of the Sandy loss will be paid by reinsurers. Most marine reinsurance capacity is global in nature, so they not only have Hurricane Sandy to deal with, but over the last few years there have been the floods in Bangkok, the earthquake and tsunami in Japan, earthquakes in New Zealand and Chile, and so there's been any number of events that have caused very large marine losses for reinsurers. So we have seen a tightening in reinsurance markets. I would say it is still a market full of capacity, and we have seen some movement in rates, positive movement in rates. I think it's overdue and absolutely necessary.
That the immediate impact of Sandy as it hits the insurance industry, arguably it's over $20 billion in losses to the insurance industry. More importantly, to the marine market specifically, is the marine market is about 1% of the insurance market in North America, and that equates to somewhere around just south of $3 billion in premium. And the estimates of Sandy's loss to the marine market is anywhere from 2.5 to 3.5. Although we write 1% of the market, we're taking 10% of the hit. Hopefully that will have, shouldn't say hopefully, but it should have an impact. And as Rich is saying, 2012 was a catastrophic year for marine insurance in general. And in North America, in our group, we started with the Concordia and ended with Sandy. So it was a very trying year to maintain profitability, and we'll certainly be looking to have more adequate rate base built into our offerings for 2013.
Well, clearly, one lesson that was learned is that a storm like Sandy not only caused damage to the physical properties in and around the waterfronts, but it crippled society in general in the New York metropolitan area, so that normal first responders who would get to the scene to mitigate claims were unable to get there either through government preventing them from attending the claims, and or just simply having to deal with their own personal issues of home damage, inability to get around because of the downed trees, loss of electric power, any number of things like that created a series of events that were unprecedented. So if we think about lessons learned, it's that no matter how bad you think it can get worse. Secondly, I would say it's important for every client and every individual to have in place a hurricane preparedness plan, and that plan should not only be about the physical losses that may be incurred and ways to prevent them, but how to react, how to be prepared for the kind of issues that arose around loss of power, downed trees, inability to get around.
Just to add to what Rich is saying, the need to have a proper hurricane plan is obvious. But what often happens is nobody ever tests the plan. So on paper, it's an ideal plan, looks great. The storm comes and you take the wrong corrective action steps. Some of that would have been in just the way the port responded, and they went to the traditional windstorm, lowering the stacking of containers, and actually put a lot of the cargo in harm's way by putting it on the ground. Other issues, the automotive industry, which was hurt probably the hardest, typically uses a port for a facilitation point where they'll add equipment, take equipment off, vehicles coming in, going out. So you have your normal buildup in a port for imports and exports, but also you have the processing centers there. And it would appear with the number of at least 16,000 brand new vehicles being sent to the scrapper that maybe a little more attention could have been, should have been, put in evacuation. Sandy didn't sneak up, it came up the coast. Several days were available to potentially mitigate the loss. Once the wind and the tides come, you're not going to get out of the port. So a little more foresight and testing of your plans, and as Rich pointed out, the down communications, which also means the down electronic transfer of information, exercising the plan, just went out the window because it was not tested and practiced.
First of all, I think our staff performed extremely well. We had people who were stayed in constant communication. We have in place the necessary business continuity plans to make sure that we got to our clients. We were able to help them through their crises, and in fact have already paid, I want to say, about 75% of the claims that have come in from Sandy. Additionally, I'll say, and this is not limited to Sandy, but as a marine insurer, AIG is one of the largest in the world. We have offices on every continent in most major markets. We have approximately 350 dedicated marine staff to deal with all of our clients' needs. And when an event like Sandy or the Bangkok floods or the New Zealand quake occur, we have people ready and able to help them through it. Also, and this is equally important, before any of these events occur, we are there with our strong loss control and underwriting teams to help them put together hurricane preparedness and or earthquake preparedness plans to help them mitigate any damage that might occur.
Just picking up specifically for the New York region office, as Rich points out, we do have business continuity planning, and we test that. We test the communication skills, the off-site accessibilities, and I guess fortuitously, we are going through the process of virtual underwriting centers, so all of our underwriters in the Northeast were able to work from home. We did not miss a beat. We're up and running, not in New York, obviously, but we had support from our Chicago, Boston, and Atlanta office, which were all set to go if something happened in New York. The problem with the storm hitting New York is our first fallback line was to go to New Jersey, but obviously that went out the window when the storm hit both. But we found that the practicing and the testing of the communication plan is what kept us going. We did not miss a beat. And we did have lessons learned from the earthquake in Japan, what our offices overseas have gone through, and we took from those experiences how to set up around the world for our business continuity planning.
I think AIG, along with all the other companies, had a lot of tests in Sandy, and our offices were damaged in New York. All our employees were displaced. The continuity plan was put to the test, and I think we performed extremely well. We were responding to all of our claims very promptly. In many cases, we were reaching out proactively to claimants to try to make sure that we tended to their needs in every way. The claim activity that we have had, 70-some% of the claims reported have already been paid. We continue to work through the damages and process on the remaining claims. So I think AIG performed extremely well when it came to handling the client's needs in a very difficult time.
I think from a loss control perspective, we can bring a lot to the table for our clients. We can draw on our strength from a global perspective because these events don't just happen here in the U.S. You have cyclones and typhoons and earthquakes and all kinds of events going on all over the world, and we draw on our experiences from those events, what other team members are dealing with to assist our clients here in the U.S. when they're dealing with similar situations. A lot of our work goes on prior to the storm's arrival, really, prior to the season. We try and be proactive, make sure that our clients understand what an impact a storm like Sandy could have. We try and make sure that they have the right hurricane plans in place before a storm ever arrives. And we just work with them throughout the process and then take the lessons that we learn from these storms and continue to improve on our processes just to provide better service to our clients.